Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you guys here today. Now, here's the thing. What would happen if the Federal Reserve removed all support from everything? If they decided that we've done enough, we don't need to do any more stimulus or whatever. What would happen to the world's economy right now? Now, back in 2008, if they had done that, if they hadn't have built up the system, we would have had a terrible catastrophe. The financial system would have basically fell. But I think we would have survived it. There wasn't enough zombie businesses out there. There was not enough leverage in the system at the time to completely bring the system down to its knees and basically everything shut down. But they've leveraged the system now probably 10 times higher than it was back in 2008. So what would happen? Well, this is a theoretical discussion. That's all it is. It's theoretical what would happen. It's my personal belief that if all support was removed from the system at this point in time, that the system would completely melt down and everything would come to a stop. And a few days later, your power would go out. Because there's about 300 large power generating power companies, utility companies in the United States. And the thing is they're connected into the banking system, all of them. They have to make payroll for their employees. Everything runs on money in this system. So, if everything stopped like that, how would they get it going again, and how long would it take? And this is a big question. And I'm going to try to answer it in this show, But remember, this is just a theoretical study. Well, the only ones that could get the system back up and running at that point would be the military. And the reason why is the military, the way it's structured, they have their own desalinization units to create water for themselves. They have their own generating systems that operate independently from the system to create power for themselves. They have their own food supply separate from the system and they will maintain control and order amongst themselves in the military itself. Because they're like a separate individual unit all the way, separate individual from the rest of all of us. They have their own basis of operation. They have ways of protecting themselves. Obviously, they're the military. And so they're the ones that would restore order ultimately. But how would they do this if order was completely lost? And if you can imagine, hundreds of millions of people over a widespread area. Now, you remember what happened during Katrina, the hurricane. It was a tiny little area. If you looked at it on the map of the United States, looking at the whole of the United States, the area that the Hurricane Katrina hit in Louisiana was only a tiny area, and they were able to rush in aid from the rest of the country. But it took weeks, months, to restore complete order in that area of Louisiana. People were sitting on the roofs with water all around their houses, nobody to rescue them. And that's only a hurricane. Imagine if the entire country was encompassed in such a disaster. Even though it's a man-made disaster. How long would it take to restore order and restore the power grid? Well, the power grid would be their main objective of the military. And how they would work is they would have to try to restore power to what's called the corridor areas. And these are the areas that extend in and around the major highways, or transportation areas that move traffic from one place to another in the United States. These highways are like I-95, I-75, and there's a number of them. They're the big ones. They're the big highways that have 4 lanes, 2 lanes on either side and a meridian in the middle. they would try to follow these highways and restore the power grid in what's called corridors in these areas. And also what they would do at the same time, operationally speaking, would be to restore trucking and move any debris off of these freeways. You know, they would probably use bulldozers to push burnout cars off of the freeways. Anybody that get in their way would, well, let's just put it this way, don't get in their way, the military, when they're in these operations to restore order. Because it's not going to go well for you. Really not going to go well for you. So they would restore order in these corridor areas first and start food delivery again. Now, I want to tell you guys that this is only a scenario that I'm running here, talking about. It's only a what if, because I don't think this will ever happen. But is this what the ramifications would be if they stop printing money at this point in time? So these people out there that are deflationists, you know, and believe that they're going to cling to dollars and that they're going to become rich off of dollars because there's going to be a great deflation and the dollar's going to go up in value. If it were to go that route, the dollar would be totally worthless. And the reason why is deflation would tear the system apart to the point where the military would be the government, and believe me, they wouldn't take dollars. The dollar would be dead and gone if the government, if everything was flattened to where it's only the military that's any sort of order or anything. I mean, it would just be total anarchy and total chaos. And so in a system like that, the only thing of value is food and water. Then once order starts to be restored, they would definitely go back to precious metals. And to facilitate trade, and the internet would be down in most places, so Bitcoin would be gone in that kind of a scenario, in a deflationary scenario. So what would you want to store away in a deflationary scenario? Not dollars, no. You're not thinking right. You're not using your mental faculties. In a deflationary scenario, you're looking at a Mad Max world for a period of time before order is restored. And after order is restored, so what would you want to store away for a scenario like that? Food and water. You want to have a good hiding place and a way to protect your food and water initially. And then you want to have gold and silver backed away for after order is restored as a monetary system. That's what you'd have to do in a deflation. So in a deflation, what do you want to have put away for yourself? Gold and silver. Okay, now let's talk about what would happen on the opposite of that. It's an inflation, and I believe that there's a 99.99% chance it's going to be inflation. I don't think that scenario I just ran through with you guys is going to happen at all. I don't think it's going to happen. But in an inflationary scenario, what's going to happen is they're just going to keep printing and supporting the system at the expense of the dollar. And the dollar's going to hyperinflate, and the system won't go down into a Mad Max. It's going to continue on like it's continuing. And this is the most likely scenario. This is probably what's going to happen. So we're going to discuss that real quickly. In that kind of a scenario, Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies are going to do very well indeed, and so is gold and silver. What's going to do bad again is the dollar. So either way, guys, the dollar's toast. Deflation, it's toast. And the deflationists are just not thinking this through properly. They're not realizing that in a deflation, if we have a deflation now, it's not going to be like in the 1930s where we were able to suffer through it and the dollar became worth a lot more money. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking it's going to be like in the No, the whole system would crack up and just completely break and stop. And only thing that would be of value is food and water. So, either way, guys, your gold and silver is the place to be. Deflation, it's the place to be. Hyperinflation, it's definitely the place to be. But in hyperinflation, which is where I think it's going, cryptocurrencies are going to do very well also. Maybe even perhaps better than gold and silver because they can be transferred over the internet and gold and silver can't. And there's going to be a lot of people wanting to move around and carry their wealth with them. And you know, the way this is all going and you've already seen this happen, is borders are becoming much more solid. I mean, what I mean is if you're going to pass through the border, there was a time 5, 10 years, the further back you go back earlier than the situation that happened, you know, a number of years ago. It was very loose and easy. You could travel to almost any country and just walk right through. And then they put in these border checks and everything, you know. And now it's getting much more severe. You're not going to be able to walk through any border with any amount of gold or silver on you. And this is one of the reasons why people are going to be turning to alternatives of cryptocurrency to try to keep their money safe from government forces out there who are determined to strip you of all of your wealth as well. They are so hungry for money. It's unbelievable. They're like walking through the woods and having a bunch of ticks snag on you. They're after the blood. Your blood. Well, that's what the government's like. They're after your money. I wouldn't be surprised if they go and search through your purses and through your wallets soon. You go to the shopping mall and they say, open your wallet. Let me see how much you got in there. Anyway, listen, guys. Thank you for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. We'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.